It's Chatham in New York City. Stone Gossard, guitarist extraordinaire from Pearl Jam. They're in town. They're playing tonight. It's going to be great. I'm excited to go see him. But first, we have to talk to him about all sorts of good things. You and I go like way back. Stone and I go back 1991. I don't know if I've ever
You
told
changed our lives. The Chili Peppers changed our lives.
for the worse.
No, I mean,
Well,
I'd never experienced anything like that before. Seriously. I mean,
what does that mean?
Well,
What does that mean?
seeing a band with that much sort of weight in their beat changed the way that I perceive, like...
With that much gusto?
It's between you guys and Jane's Addiction. Seeing those kinds of shows were like, okay, we got to go back to the drawing board. What are we doing here again?
No, I saw Jane's, the first time I saw Jane's Addiction, we played with him in LA, and I'd never seen him and it was they scared
Yeah.
Perry
Yeah.
and the tribal
Yeah.
Steven and Navarro, the whole thing, it was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, and we play our little funk song, and I was like, this is serious. So Jane's,
That's the way I felt
LA
about you
band,
guys.
yeah.
And plus being able to be on the side of the stage and watch like you and Flea get into it. And I mean, that really like affected me dramatically. And you guys were so good to us too.
We loved you.
We've been so, I know, through the years of being in smaller bands, you can just get really beaten up over you can really
we only gave you this much stage, no sound check, and 2 lights, but...
We had all the sound. We had more sound than we needed at that point, so...
Well, he's talking about a tour we did in 1991 with Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, Chili Peppers in the fall of '91. For 2 months, we traveled around the United States. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but the way that you guys ended up being on a tour, we had Pumpkins were on.
Right.
Yeah, this is great, and we were like, another band, a third band, yeah. And we were rehearsing where we rehearse all the time in this place called, what's it called? Where we rehearse all the time, the Alley. And we were getting ready to leave, and I think Flea had a tape. It wasn't even a CD, it was probably a tape. Because this band that Jackie I,
Right.
is friends with the singer,
Yeah.
and he just have a record come out. And, he wanted us to listen to it, see if you guys would take him out. I remember we were standing around the parking lot, kind of leaning in the car, he puts it in the car, we listened to like 30 seconds of the first song. Yeah, that sounds pretty good, right? Okay, yeah, great. That was it.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. And we're like, yeah, these nice guys. Jack likes them. Cool. Sounds good.
Yep.
So that's how Pearl Jam got on the first tour, and we met. And there, we loved you guys, and it was so great to see it go from, was that your first like tour that you did?
Yeah, that was. We went from selling no records on that tour to selling a bunch of records.
Yeah.
By the end of it.
And I saw it just like, and I would watch you guys.
And you guys did too.
Yeah, it was that time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Blood Sugar Sex Magic and their record. And you just saw it. And that was the last time probably both of us played small theaters or whatever, and it just kind of blew up in the time of everything. But
And you always used to let me watch you play drums from behind the stage. So
it let you.
Well, somehow.
Don't!
No.
Tim! Get him!
One of your techs would let me. Probably Robbie Allen.
Probably Robbie Allen. Yeah.
But that was an important, super life-changing
it was really fun.
moment for us, for sure.
And then...
So thanks again.
Yeah. Yeah, you owe me everything. Oh, yeah. No, and then to see it go from that to... Fast forward 6 months later to the summertime, and we were on the Lollapalooza together, and by that time it was like, and that was another interesting, fun tour.
Yeah,
that was a good one too. I enjoyed that. We had a lot of fun. Soundgarden, Ministry, Al.
Yeah. Spiking everybody's drinks. I never saw it, but I just heard about it.
He's like, Chad, I'm not doing the hard stuff anymore, but he's standing with like a soup bowl of Bushmills.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right. The Bones and the Robbie really hung out with him a lot on that tour. He was like Al Jr. He would like come out on stage with them. But yeah, so that's the beginning of our friendship. And the other thing that I remember too was shortly after that tour, I think it was later in the fall, we were gonna have our band. What was it gonna be called?
Craze Jewelers? No. Oh no, it was
I don't remember.
Cease and Desist.
Cease and Desist. It wasn't this.
No, it was legal jargon.
It was legal jargon, but it was more like Jazz Odyssey. It was going to be.
It was just improvisation.
Yeah.
Like we'd done a couple things where we just smoke weed and
play.
Yeah.
Go, what key?
And sometimes it was fantastic.
And other times it was, what the hell is this?
I still remember one of those nights at
we did one
show. Yeah.
At the, where was that again?
Rock Candy.
Rock Candy, infamous Rock Candy.
And then, but we played, you and me and Lonnie did one night at, what's the LA club that Johnny Depp used to own
Viper Room.
Viper Room. That I still remember to this day. We played like a couple songs. We came out as you, me, Navarro, and and Lonnie Marshall.
Really?
Yeah. And everybody showed up. And I still remember to this day that the opening 4 minutes of that jam with you playing with Lonnie Marshall, I'd never felt a rhythm section with so much like weight. I was like, wow, that was like, because just the way you guys play together and he pushing on you and you pushing on him, and I was like, it was like the widest groove I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, wow.
He can play. He can play. I don't remember.
I don't think we couldn't sustain it for more than.
No, it was unsustainable.
It was just, we were awesome, and then
where can you go?
Did anyone sing?
I don't even remember. But so we had this thing. We were gonna play.
The curtain closed on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all smoked a bunch of pot, and then the curtain opened and
go.
It's pretty good. Moments.
Yeah. But then I remember being in. I came up, we hung out, and then Robbie was there. And we went over to your house, we jammed. We were gonna do sort of another, was it a different club, if you remember?
Yeah.
We were gonna do, what were we gonna do? Was it
Bad Company.
Was it like
Covers?
No, it was Van Halen.
Oh, Van Halen.
And we ended up doing like, that guy came and sang,
yeah.
Right? And we did like a whole night of
yeah.
Van Halen. I remember Mike showing up like doing eruption, like, no for no.
I didn't know any of it. So that was
right.
Luckily, there's no footage of that, because if we cut to that at this point, you'd be like, "Wow, one guy's really sucking."
Not plugged in. But somehow it turned into Van Halen cover night.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was still fun.
Yeah. Improv jazz, Van Halen, Bad Company.
Right. But we were gonna actually take our little Jazz Odyssey cease and desist out on the road.
Yeah.
And I broke my wrist.
Yeah.
And that screwed everything up. So
some might say it saved us.
Saved anybody who was going to come out going, what is this?
It was that was an assassin band though too. That was Brad Hauser from who played with Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians, who was a Seattle guy, great bass player.
Who was it from?
Avon Kane, who's crazy famous art musician now. He's like great. Violinist, like he was another guy that was Skerrick was the saxophone player. Right. So a bunch of guys that are kind of semi-heavyweights now. I was in over my head.
now we can't afford them. That's the problem. Back then, but it would have been fun. We were literally gonna like get in the van and go.
Yeah, with no songs.
With no songs and go up and just play like clubs, because we're fearless like that. People are gonna be like, Like, you know, even the dogs that kind of didn't do the dog thing. What is this? But the one night we did it I thought we pulled it off. And it was like, okay, I think we might be able to do this.
And we opened up for, who's the guitar player for Guns N' Roses?
Gilby Clark. We opened up for Gilby Clark. That's a bill right there.
Yeah.
So you knew Dad a month? How old?
8 weeks. Or going on 8 weeks right now.
It's almost 2 months. Marlo.
Yep.
Marlo.
How about that?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff. She's sleeping through the night.
Good girl. Thank God for
Gaining
drugs.
weight. Shitting. All the
eating,
things. Yeah.
Pooping.
All those things.
All the important things. That's a good life.
Yep. Everything's okay.
And she's
Miracle.
back. She's back at home right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not really road ready yet. So
It would have been really nice to have him out, but it's eight weeks. It's sort of and kind of flu season and jumping on a plane for 6 hours, and it's gonna happen soon enough.
Yeah, because you guys are very kid friendly. When I was in Holland, it was like kids everywhere.
Yeah. Are you going to the show tonight?
I am coming.
Oh, great. Great.
I'm figuring out which guitar change I'm gonna do.
Great.
I'm coming. I'm gonna heckle.
I think we're ready to have.
heckle, and I'm gonna stand next to Matt like this.
No. No. I think we're ready to have a good show. We're like 4 shows in.
All right, you getting it?
And we had like 4 rehearsals before we left.
You guys like
so each of us have individually had good shows.
Right.
Since
you
the
ready
tour
to put
started.
One together.
We're ready.
So for all you
That
people,
was awesome. Oh, I fucking clammed the crap out of that.
I was great.
My side of the stage, nary a.
I got mine. It was terrible. What do you mean? It was great.
Yeah, lots of that. Always that.
You know, that's the beautiful thing about the old live performance. You know what? You get to do it again the next night.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. You guys have, you know, live band. More, you know. How do you? Let me ask you this. Now let's talk about. Just for a second, and then I don't want to talk too much about, you know, certain things, but another thing we have a connection on is Brendan.
Yeah.
And you've worked with him on all your records.
No. A bunch though.
Okay.
We had a couple vacations from each other.
Really? Oh, that's probably good.
Yeah. No, you learn a lot by not working with somebody
with the same
so.
guy. Yeah.
But the last couple and the first, well, not the very first one, but the you know, the middle 3.
Yeah.
You know, the middle 3, 4. Most of our sort of well-known records.
How? Because I know Brendan because he engineered. I think it was the last engineering gig that he had. Actually, it was working on Blood Sugar, and then he went off to do you guys. I think your record was like the next record, and he's gone on to, you know, do great things and shan't touch the knobs anymore.
Yeah. But yet he's one of those guys that knows how to touch the knobs and play the instrument and
he can do it all.
Yeah.
He can do. He can do.
That's why he was frustrated being second. He wanted to be, he's naturally gravitated towards being number 1, which I love about him. He really knows how to run a session.
He does.
And he works quickly and he always has a good attitude.
He always got a good idea. And
he made that Black Crowes record, that Southern Harmony or whatever that one is, which is one of the great.
And that's the one we heard. And I
tracks.
remember Rick Rubin going, "Well, we're going to use my guy to engineer."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Well, who is it?" And he's like, "Oh, he's this band." And then put that on, and I was like,
good drum sounds.
Good sounds.
Yeah.
I think that's the best drum sound that's my favorite. I was on the Blood Sugar.
Yeah.
It's big and punchy, and it's great. But he's such a talent, and he played, you know, just such a musical guy, you know. But, you know, how has it changed? Like, is it like almost 20-year relationship? And from, you know, other than personally or whatever, but like, the experience that you've had making records and being in a band and doing everything, being a musician, living your life, and for him and all the stuff that how do you see it different? If you can think back to the Brendan of up at the site when you did the record up there.
I think from the band's perspective, everyone's gotten a little bit. We've gotten better over the years. I mean, 20 years of playing, you eventually start to figure out some stuff. I think we've gotten. Hopefully. I think we are more comfortable with the process. I think in particular Ed is, in terms of just like kind of knowing what he's capable of and kind of knowing that he's going to kind of get through it. Where maybe some of the early records, it was like, am I going to be able to pull this off? Or, you know, sort of maybe some of those, you know, I think everyone is comfortable with the process of starting with nothing and coming up with a record, and that's freaking out. Yeah. I think Brendan. I mean, I think when we first started making records with Brendan, he was. I feel like he was much more like ready. I think he had lower expectations in terms of what he was gonna, how much he was gonna insert himself into the process.
Other than taking money gambling.
Other than taking all your money and gambling in between takes.
That's good enough. Okay, let's get back to the game.
Follow the queen.
He likes to gamble a little bit. A little bit. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But I would just say that, you know, when we made Verses or Vitology or whatever, we would go in with basically no songs, and we'd start working a song up. You know, maybe somebody would have a riff or an arrangement, but we weren't doing any demoing process that Ed was involved in. Maybe people might have brought in a demo or something that sounded like a demo, but until we started playing it as a band and then deconstructed it. So we were basically building songs from the floor up, and we would do takes of those. We'd demo something up, and that take would end up being the track on the record. It was just like, well, that's the one we got. And I'm not sure whether that was because he didn't feel like he could push us to do another take, or we were so resistant to that, or whether he felt like it would be going backwards to try to, you know. But we're much more like a bigger process beforehand than
more pre-production.
Yeah, more pre-production, and more. He really wants to cut it with you after you know the song. I mean, it's much more like that, and he's just much more involved in the minutia of the arrangement, and sonically really has a very strong perception of where he wants to go with something before he starts. So that's a really great thing, and in a lot of cases that really benefits the record. There's certain things about Shoot from the Hip that worked out because we've had huge hits that were like that we never thought about more than 10 minutes. Right. So we have both of those sort of things to be able to choose from now, and that's both of those things are important. You know, working something over and really making it, honing it, and getting it right, and then the idea that, you know, if you have 5 guys and everyone's musically, you know, excited that you can go in and make a record in, you know, 4 or 5 days, if everybody is on the same page and like ready to kind of like make that happen. Yeah. So I think that we're always going to be playing around with that polarity of like, how much time are we going to spend on it? How much control do we want in terms of like deciding, well, it's good enough, or I like the way that, you know, the drum beat skips a beat every fourth time. And you
probably might have 5 different opinions on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or 6, including
Brendan. And that's another thing that Brendan is so helpful about, is just like, he has such a strong gravitational force that he drives it, and then if it's wrong, then the band can kind of fight him and we can get our way. You know, if we all are in agreement that it's wrong, then it'll And that still happens all the time. And there'll be songs that he's like, I'm not into it, and you know, we'll keep going, well, we're actually going to do it, and then we'll do it, and by the end of it, it ends up, you know, to his admission, an important song on the record. So if you're working with somebody that can kind of say, oh, that worked out great. Right. You know, I was, you know, he's not saying I was wrong. Right. But he's like in the game with us. He's like, he's part of it, the process. He's not like so above it that he can't, you know. Yeah. So he's really a good person and really talented, and I hope that we make more records with him. And I hope they're different I hope we push him to make different kinds of records than we've made yet, you know. I think everybody at this point wants to do something a little bit more, I don't know if it's loose-ended, but just a little bit more of the band working things over more as a band first, and then getting to the point where we're comfortable with the arrangement, and then go from there. If there's something that's really not working after that, that's a fun thing to do too. So
I think people, they ask me like, well, you work with Rick Rubin for all these years, and if you ever want to work with somebody else, we always actually bring it up while we're writing our songs, like, maybe we should, try somebody else and dance with somebody else. And then we get to a certain point where we're like, you know what? Rick is going to make our songs better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the, for me, from a producer, that's really kind of what you want.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Brendan does the same thing. And also, Rick's not emotionally attached to the songs like we are. Oh, this is wait till you hear this. This is going to be the great. We'll play and be like, what else you got?
Yeah.
No, this is the greatest thing we've ever done. I heard that like 10 years ago. What else you got? And then we'll play some jam that we did on Tuesday. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. What is that? Yeah. And so that objective sort of detached, but in a good way, objectivity is really important. And he knows it so well, and I'm sure the same thing with Brendan. And those are advantages of working with someone and you trust and their musicality and where they come from and those, I think, they're huge advantages than going and trying a different guy every time I just, and there's somewhat of a consistency, and as long as it's a good quality consistency and not a sameness or something that doesn't grow and change, I think it's an important thing to work with somebody else. But we could never do records by ourselves. It would come out. It wouldn't. I don't think that. I think it would be. We need that other person. Yeah. And like you say, not always will that person. The idea is great, and he'll think, and we'll say, no, you got to see this through. We're going to do this, and finally,
And it forces you guys to take a stand
to really
as a band.
Focus, and go and take a stand, right? But there's no like, well, no, I don't. When did you start doing Brad? Brad's been going for a long time.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah, more than 20 years.
Wow.
So 1993 or 92, after the road, after the Lollapalooza, is that 93?
Yeah, 92.
92, so right after Lollapalooza, basically, where we were done with that 10-album cycle, got home, and, Regan Hagar, who's the drummer, and Sean, who I'd known already previously Regan for 10 years, because he was in Malfunction, and he was in, who was in a band with Andy Wood, who was Mother Love Bone, and sort of this old connection, and it was just more of the same, of feeling like ready to make a record. Let's book a studio for 10 days and just let's make a record, because these are guys that I'd loved and I'd always wanted to play music with, and I always felt like a connection to them, and was just another, I was feeling my oats at that point. So I was like, okay, well, let's,
I could do this, let's go.
I've already figured it out. It's like you just work hard. You just fucking make a record. Put it out.
Did you have songs? Did they have songs? Did you collaborate?
We went in the studio and basically, the story is that we hired a bass player from another friend of mine who'd never heard play bass before, and just said, we're gonna fly this guy up. We don't know we heard he's a good bass player, but we don't know anything about him, and we're gonna write songs for 5 days and then go in the studio for 5 days and make a record. Wow. Which is,
ballsy.
Yeah, it's just like, but it's like at the time, I had a little bit of money, so it was like, the studio is gonna be
money.
Yeah, it's gonna be a couple grand for the studio, and like,
go have fun with my friends, make some music.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work out,
who cares?
Yeah. So, and that process was really, it's an exciting process, to that jumping off the cliff of like, what is it gonna be? It's more of a young man's game to do that, maybe, but at the time it was great. So, and once you start something, I just, I'm like a badger. I'm just fucking, just stay with it, just
honey badger,
real stubborn. So, and we've made, I don't know, four or five records over there. Yeah.
Great. So, is it same?
It's the bass player, Jeremy Toback, eventually wanted to kind of do more of his own stuff, and wasn't really super focused on Brad, and so we ended up playing with a few different guy since then, but we've got a bass player, a permanent bass player now, named Keith Lowe, who I think you played with before. He played bass on that. Remember when you came up to Seattle, like the last time he came up in Seattle, and we did that track and that guys
for the Turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Turtle
So
track.
the bass player
he
for
played
that.
on that?
Yeah,
That's your guy?
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah. Keith Lowe is professional, solid.
Solid.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I think it was rigged though with the whole turtle. That wasn't fair. Come on. We can't go into that. No, we can't. But and tell me about the Moonlander. What's going on with that?
I write a bunch of songs.
Are you singing?
I'm singing on it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So after a while, you just if you write a bunch of songs, eventually you got to put them out. And when you're in a band, then you have your own label, and then you're like, well, what are we going to put on our label? And then you think, well,
I've got some songs. No one else is going to sign me. I'll sign me.
And I think
it's
to
not
myself,
true.
I'm going to go straight to the top. Finally, people are going to understand the talent.
That I've known all these years.
Fuck those guys. That's what
It's not about me. I don't need those guys. It's about me.
Then the record comes out, you're like, oh, well, that's just a little side thing. No, it's fun. It's good to. I love writing music. It's still to this day. I have a guitar with me in my hotel. I go in there every time I come in from dinner or wake up in the morning and have too much coffee. It's like pick it up and just try to record a little riff or something. And I keep a lot of riffs. Then I can remember how to play them. That's the kind of key. Is like.
Do you have a little? You got to have a little something.
iPhone, just to
Play into your phone.
Yeah, and then when I get back from tour or wherever, at some point during the year, I'll go in and spend 2 or 3 days and just get them on to the next. Either with a drum machine or play with somebody or just kind of get them down to the point where I can remember them even more playing from somebody. So.
Right. And now, how does that go from like? This could be a Pearl Jam song. This could be my song. This could be a Brad song. Or are they all just in the whole Stones?
I mean, I think ideally everything that could be a Pearl Jam song, I would prefer it to be a Pearl Jam song. I mean, if Ed wanted to sing on anything in general, I'm open to that and excited about that. But at some point, I record, 40 or 50 ideas over the course of a year, and it's like, I'm going to probably write a couple of songs or 2 or 3 songs on the Pearl Jam record. Everyone writes in the band, so you just kind of figure it out. Green River, which was the very first band I was in, real band, that we opened for Jane's Addiction, and I want to say it was at, and this is 80...
Oh, Madam...
80...
down in L.A.?
Yeah.
At the club, I know.
And it was, and Jane's Addiction was on this compilation record. There was a bunch of LA bands, and it was kind of some kind of arty bands, and it was like, what's the giant?
I know, it
was a big night, every Thursday.
Yeah,
it was like
yeah. I can't. It's escaping me.
Changed I think Green River broke up right after that because it was just like, what's the point?
Yeah, he just like quit. I mean, those guys, man. Yeah, it was. It was really special, very, very powerful music.
We needed new Jane's Addiction.
The Janes.
Where are they?
We just played with. Well, they played the night before us in where were we? Somewhere in the South, Atlanta, at a festival. I didn't see them. They were the night before us. But
who's playing bass?
I think Chris Chaney, who's been kind of their guy on and off.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, they've had a bunch of different guys, but did you know Duff up in Seattle back in the day?
I certainly saw him out at clubs and knew who he was, and but we didn't have a relationship. Right. I saw all his bands play. Yeah. I used to go. He was in a band called 10 Minute Warning that I was just hugely into. And
did he play bass, guitar?
He played bass.
Maybe guitar.
He played guitar in that band.
Yeah. And he plays drums too.
Yeah. What was the name of his band? He was in the Seattle punk scene early and often.
Right.
I was much more of a late bloomer. I was into British new wave of heavy metal, but also into Motorhead, and then that led me to because so many of the punk kids like Motorhead too.
Right,
so it was like, okay,
right.
I'm gonna go explore that a
I'm
little
gonna
bit.
check out the punk thing. Iron Maiden,
Sure, yeah, early.
Killers,
Yes.
Child.
Yes. All that stuff.
Yeah.
To me, that was like brand new music that was like not
It was
in America.
exciting.
It was
Yeah,
like
it was
not. It was
exciting.
like yeah.
Like King Diamond,
Sure, yeah. But that was later. I mean,
it was a little later.
it was Motorhead. That was kind of the one that really like made me go, okay, this is heavier than.
I saw Motorhead on their last tour in England, in like Manchester, and we stood on the side of the stage by the monitor guy. You know, the monitor guy will like turn on the monitors every once in a while, check people's sounds, whatever. He turned on Lemmy's mix.
Yeah.
The most incredible thing I've ever heard. It sounded like a fucking orchestra of 9 basses and guitars, loud. Like, I've never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And he was just, I don't, like we came back to see him, Flea and I, and he's in a cramped place, and he's got a slot machine and like 2 girls with him, and he's looking really pasty.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, and get his drink, and I'm just like, man, you are like,
Yeah. Never gonna change.
never gonna change. And he fucking rocked it though. It was great. Incredible.
Motorhead is.
Motorhead, that's it. Gotta know the Motorhead. What he's brought it up, so and then we went, did you go from there to like, you were already playing.
Guitar?
Yeah.
At what time? When are you talking about?
That's what I want to know. When? What time? Wait.
When did I start playing guitar?
That's what I want to know.
I didn't start playing guitar till I was 16 years old. So I was in high school watching a bunch of kids learn how to play guitar over the course of the year, and I was like,
wow, I would have thought.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I picked it up because I wanted to be in a band. I was like, okay. Girls, but also punk rock at that time in Seattle was like I'd never heard anyone say you got to be crappy and you can get in a band.
Right.
It's awesome.
It's okay to be crappy.
Just learn 2 things, dude. It's fucking, you're in. It's gonna be awesome.
That's still one of the greatest things about punk rock.
That's Steve Turner from Mudhoney was like, I went to high school with him and he was like, we'll call it Iron Maiden shit. You need like 2 chords and just like back and forth. And I was
you're
like,
in.
Great. And
did he show you first?
And I was good at remembering like what I played. So if I figured something out, I could play it again. So you know.
There you go. That's worked. That's worked out for you.
Yeah, it really has. Like consistency.
Even if it's
I show up on time.
I do these 2 things. They're both wrong, but I repeated it, so it's a part.
Yeah. After a while, people get used to it.
Figure it out.
But
so that was it. So what? And so you played.
I was in the Green River, which was with Steve Turner.
That was your first band.
Yeah, with Mudhoney, basically the guys from Mudhoney.
Wow.
And Jeff, and so Jeff and I started playing in '80.
When you were in high school.
'87. He was out of high school. He had moved to Seattle to be in punk rock bands, and I had met those guys just kind of going out and seeing shows and stuff. So I'd literally been playing 6 months, you know, and had an amp and was like, okay. And then, you know, just terrified for the first 2 years of just like getting up there and just, you know, panicking, but just definitely doing my hair and getting completely. I looked fantastic.
Did you have a good look? I looked great.
Yeah, a lot of scars. I really wanted to be Johnny Thunders at that point.
Right. A lot of people wanted to be Johnny Thunders, Wow.
You know, solos would just go, woo. You know,
was that his thing?
Johnny Thunders, he had a lot of slides. When in doubt.
Slide. And
no, it's more like,
That's more like a Townsend thing.
Yeah, no. He wasn't a pig scraper.
What? Now, I know, I don't want to get too down on technical musician stuff, but I know you're a Les Paulsman. And have you always been?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of gone through phases. I mean, there's certain songs where Strats are great. I mean, it's Strats and kind of Les Pauls in general. Yeah.
But
it's funny, but once you start playing, if you start playing a Strat, then you almost have to change your amp sound, and then it's hard to go back and forth between Les Pauls and Strats. It's just like kind of one of those things. But so I'm almost fully back to Les Pauls at this point. It's kind of big, beefy.
Yeah, but they're harder. We got to kind of work a Les Paul. No?
I mean, yeah, maybe. I think Strats, you got to actually know how to play better a little bit, which is weird.
So if you're a hack.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Well, just you want to hit it, just a clean chord. You just yeah, like a lot of bottom end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I still love them.
Yeah. I still have. You gave me a PV, like. You don't remember that? You gave me a PV, like it looks like a. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like a tweed kind of thing.
Yeah. I think when we would jam backstage, like remember we would have those little warm-up jams, and anybody would show up, and I took that home with me. I don't know if you gave it to me or I took it home.
You still have
it.
Yeah.
And like it's in my little room in my house, and people are like, "Oh man," and it sounds great.
Yeah, does it?
It sounds awesome.
Yeah. PV coming through.
PV.
I had a PV. The PV gave me some amps at some point, and I think that's why you got one.
I'm the benefactor. Thank you. It's like the same thing. I get some drums and like, well, I'm not using that anymore. Oh, well, here you go. You can have those.
Do you have a deal with anyone right now?
I've been with the Pearl Drum Company for forever.
Yeah.
Pearl and Sabian and same. I don't switch around.
Are they doing anything new these days that makes you go, "This is great. This is something I've been waiting for"?
That's a good question. My last kit, I think that you saw was that for live is Acrylic.
Yeah.
And I've never played an Acrylic. The John Bonham, famous. And they're really loud and bright. And so for live, they actually, they really said, but they have enough warmth. I thought it was going to be kind of, all attacky. And I was surprised at the tone, and they sound really good. So I've been using them. I really like them. But
you take the heads off the toms, the back of the toms. Because that's old school, right?
That's old school. Put a bunch of tape all over them.
Yeah.
No.
You want them to ring.
I got a little bit of ring going. Yeah, but they're good. So, but to reinvent the drum, I mean,
Hasn't happened yet.
No, and I'm not really into the electronic thing. A lot of guys trigger and all that stuff, but we're an old rock band.
Yeah.
I haven't really recorded with them. I don't know. I think you can't beat the old wood. Some old maple wood drum from the '50s or something. You can't. Something about old instruments, wooden instruments with a piano or a violin or a guitar or a drum for whatever reason. The glue, the wood thing. It's hard. You can't really replicate that. I don't think. I don't know if anybody's done it yet. So no, I think all the companies are making their high-end stuff is good, and it's just what you like, So but do you use old guitars? Or
some actually. My guitar I'm using mostly right now is a reissue Gibson, which I bought a couple of them. Les Paul reissues from a 60 reissue and a 59 reissue, and they're both great.
Right.
I mean,
those are that's like the year supposedly, right?
Yeah, and Gibson I think is doing certain versions of these reissues really meticulously. I mean, I think there's enough history now that they really are going back and figuring out how to kind of make them close, and then I can take them out and
beat them up a little bit,
drop them, or it's like I don't need to worry about them because there's so many guitars you can't even I don't personally own any super crazy vintage guitars, but there's a few around that. Mike can't take out a couple guitars, because it's
something can happen.
Yeah, it's like
stone, whatever. Play,
it's
drop
too,
it.
It's just too crazy. Yeah. So, and I don't need it. It's like it's good for me to kind of be not worrying about what's going on with my guitar.
It's like one less thing to have to worry about.
And I'm sure I'm sure you're the same way. It's like if you had some really super classic vintage kit out, you just want a kit that sounds halfway decent. You can just make something happen.
Environmental stuff that I know that you're really into, right? You guys each kind of have your thing, but tell me a little bit about yours. Can I?
Sure.
Can I ask?
Absolutely.
Okay. Or maybe it's not. You tell me.
Environmental stuff is weird. I think that there's certain times where you really you get a strong impulse to try something different. You want to do it, and you go for it at different times. And I think the one that's been consistent with us is just, for me, I've kind of looked at basically our carbon footprint as kind of one of the things that we could begin to at least acknowledge and sort of address, because it's, to trucks, planes, cars, everybody going to and fro.
Kind of a no-brainer, right?
It's one that if, it's definitely a no-brainer. It's definitely like, okay, this is definitely something we're having an impact on. So probably the last 10 years or so, we've just basically accounted for what our carbon is, and that's usually, well, not usually, but it's cars going to and from the shows, kind of some kind of average of 20 miles per car, 2 people in each car, sort of, some general averages, how much fuel the plane burns, how much fuel the buses burn, how many trucks do we have out, how many hotels are we staying in, pretty detailed analysis of our carbon, and then based on those first 2 or 3 times doing a detailed analysis, more of a general analysis of like, we know we're going to be out for 3 weeks, we're basically the same number of trucks, we're basically the same number of flights, and then just basically accounting for what our carbon is, and at this point it's usually around 2,200 tons of carbon every time we go out on for a 3-month jaunt, 2 or 3 week legs or whatever like that.
Right.
So that's considerable amount of carbon. It's kind of hard to imagine what that would look like. And so we've just looked for different ways where we were going to both acknowledge that and then mitigate it if we can. And we've done a ton of different things. Everything from buying green power to planting trees, and I think the latest one we've done is in Seattle. We've gotten actually a bunch of organizations, the Seattle Mariners and the Seahawks and Nordstrom's and the Seattle Zoo and a bunch of other big organizations into Seattle to join us and to begin to start the same process with their organizations.
Great.
And basically those companies are looking at their carbon, and at this point none of them are doing it as extensively as we are, and we've been doing it for a while, but giving money to an organization in Seattle called Forterra, and Forterra is using that money to replant green belts all over the city. So basically planting big conifers all over the city, and over the course of their lifetime those conifers will absorb, Washington State is fantastic for growing big trees, and a big cedar will absorb a lot of carbon over the course of its lifetime. So it's not a perfect system, but it's beginning to try to get companies to think about the impact they're having, and
That's great.
and so it's something that I'm very excited about, but it's been a long process. It's been doing it for 8 years and keep trying to fucking find different avenues to make it legitimate, and it's difficult. It's difficult to do. So
why do you think that people would not be like you said at the beginning? It's like anyone can see that obviously this is what's going on, like you're saying, the fuel, the burning, and cars and everything like that. That they wouldn't want to be like, yeah, I think that's a good thing. I want to be involved in that. Yeah. That's that they don't care, they're apathetic, or they don't have the resources, or it's going to cost money to do that, or.
I think it just takes time. It's like in Seattle 15 years ago there was no recycling. Now everyone recycles. Right. There's every single house has a recycling bin, has a composting bin. It's like composting. It's like, New York City is farther behind with that, but eventually. Yeah. Throwing food into the landfill, excess food or anything that's biodegradable is ridiculous. Right. That's soil. Basically, you're throwing away nutrients that you could be, creating topsoil. So there's a level of education and just critical mass that needs to be reached before people start dealing with it. And I think carbon will eventually be like somebody saying you got to take out your trash, or you got to clean up your own backyard, or it's going to come to be common sense for companies to say, here's what our fuel costs are every year, and we should, whatever those fuel costs are, we should be looking at storing as much fuel or storing as much carbon as we released into the atmosphere, and that would be just like a normal state of affairs. But you have to do it voluntarily now, because trying to create laws that do that or all of that is so fraught with political there's such a polarity in terms of how people view climate change and the environment that it's best just to do it on your own, and then hopefully it reaches a point where people are like, oh, that's just the way to do it. So.
Well, I hope so. Yeah. Makes sense. Education, people. Yeah, we did the same, with our buses and the, biodiesel and all, just like, it has to start with you though, because, be the whole thing, oh yeah, you went to the environmental conference and you flew in on your private jet, and all that kind of stuff. You're like, well, and it's start with you. And
you gotta get your band to organize around an idea and then go with it. And everyone just doing that, it takes some political, you understand the politics of how it works, because certain people are ready to pay this much for that, or that seems like too much, or whatever. So you got to find the sweet spot, and that's what every business, I think, ultimately needs to figure out for themselves, is what's the sweet spot. And I think that there'll be, some of the early businesses that really adopt this or adopt a similar strategy of acknowledging their carbon are going to benefit from being, customers will go to them because they're doing something that their customers appreciate. But so I kind of hope that at some point it becomes trendy, that the customers will start to respond to companies that do that. But and we'll see. Have you been diving lately?
You know where I'm going. No.
When's the last time you dove?
I dove in the Bahamas. I went with Nancy, my wife. We went, and that was the last time. That was last year, Easter time or something.
How was
Beautiful.
it? Yeah.
Great. Stone and I.
You were certified.
I was certified. This was 1996, something, 5. Our little group was, we were in Australia, and we decided, let's go scuba diving, let's go on a trip. So we went to Bali. You met me in Australia, you went to my drum clinic in Australia.
Yeah.
What's this? And then...
I loved it. I did. You're so warm, and everyone was excited to see you, and you were like, it was very casual.
Very casual.
Yeah.
Not all planned out like this. Very casual. Yeah. But anyway, we went from there, we went to Bali, and we took Dave Rat with us, our mutual friend, and Smitty, who's been your guy forever now.
Yeah.
Love him. So we went to Bali, and I think myself and Smitty were certified, right?
Schmitty wasn't certified.
He wasn't?
Schmitty, Dave, and I all got certified while we were there.
I was the only certifiable one?
And I don't even know if you were fully...
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I had a card.
Yeah.
I had a card. I think it was like my brother's.
Yeah.
So, I was like...
Yeah.
Illegally diving. But in Bali, things are a little loose.
Yeah.
But on that, I got to do reef diving, deep dive. So I did get, and I still have the picture of me, like, from this guy that was our guy. His name was Andy. And he picks us up, and he's going to take us around. We're going to do this diving trip and go to a couple different places around Bali and travel with him. And I don't know, how do we get hooked up with him? Do you know? I don't remember. Somehow.
Promoter, maybe.
Maybe. So this is a guy. So we meet with him. And so these guys, to get certified, you had to do some work in the pool, and he's got to kind of teach them, and there's a whole thing.
One day in the pool and one day with a book. I mean, it was like one day.
It was on the fast track, because we were like, we want to go, let's get it going. So, but the thing about Andy was that Andy, you put your wetsuits on, and Andy wore a bathing suit that you wear underneath your wetsuit, and you don't want to have a lot of clothing under the wetsuit. So Andy had this bathing suit that was basically a thong. Pretty much a thong, right?
Yeah.
And we were kind of
Speedo minus.
It was a Speedo minus the bag.
Yeah.
and we were kind of, I guess us Americans, wow, okay, that's a bold style.
We were big shorting at that point.
Yeah, we were totally like long shorts. And so I remember one day in particular, I think you and Dave I think you were in a pool, and Smitty and I decided to go out and get these bathing suits. And we dubbed them the Andy cut. So they were known, come to be known, right? So we went out and we got the ugliest, most colorful bathing suit thongs in all of Bali. And we came back very excited to show our friends after our shopping spree.
Did I wear one at one point?
Of course you did.
I can't believe it.
We all did. And there are pictures of us, men, hanging out in Bali, arms around each other, on vacation, scuba diving, in our thongs. They're somewhere.
Nobody knows, though, where they are.
I know that Smitty has them, but I wanted to see the pictures.
Yeah.
And
Schmitty has them now?
He has them somewhere.
Yeah. Great.
And when he did show them to me,
can we
insert
that into the interview?
Maybe this is where we cut to the Andy cut picture. Except what you're going to notice is Smitty and his Andy cut is not in the picture.
Yeah. He's taking the photo.
No. He took himself out.
Yeah.
He's in the blackmail file. But it's a good look, and I highly recommend it when you go to Bali. But we had a great time. That was really... Dave still talked about...
Did I tell you that Andy borrowed 10 grand from me and never paid me back, too?
I didn't want to bring that up. Did you have a business venture that didn't really work out with Andy? Wasn't a baby...
My fond memories of Andy.
We had such a great time. He was so great. He showed us around. So fun. Guy killed me in tennis. And that one tennis thing, I got smoked by that guy in tennis. Yeah, but you entered into a business.
Yeah. It's fine.
That didn't work.
Fine.
Fine.
All's fair in love and war.
Oh, man. Dave Rat still brings up the time when the side of the road, those crazy monkeys that would come up on the side of the road.
Yeah.
He said I just came up and pulled my pants down and yelled at them and scared the monkeys or something.
And Balinese drivers.
And the Balinese chicken. They would play chicken. Yeah. It was crazy. That was fun though. That was good. Yeah. Have you dove? Have you done?
It's been at least 5 years, maybe more for me. Yeah.
That's too long.
Yeah.
I know. We were in South Africa not too long ago, and Dave really wanted to go, but it was 3 hours. He wanted to go shark diving. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
I love it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is it 15, 20 minutes away?
No. He was like, it's 3 hours. I'm like, right on the coast. Come on. And he was like, yeah, don't worry. First, we're going to bungee off the highest possible bungee bridge, Dave. Yeah. And then we're going to go and do the dive. Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Sounds like a very action-packed day. Oh, Chad, the guy, it's 3 hours away.
Yeah. Do you have a studio?
No. I have my drums and a piano, which I don't play.
But you have your drums in your apartment?
Yeah.
Can you play them? You're not supposed to. You gotta
Shut up!
You gotta get a studio.
I know.
I mean, just
to be able to jam.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Yeah, you're right. It's cutting it, and now I'm half the drummer that I was once, and that wasn't much to begin with.
But that's all that is going to take is literally a week of you going back on the drums again. You're going to figure out things you never did before because you actually stopped for a second.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
You know what? Because that's probably a good
thing. If there was one thing that you were going to work on next? I mean, what is if you think about
can't ask me these questions.
If you think about your drumming, what is you have strengths?
It all.
You have strengths.
I've got nothing more to do. I've quit.
What would you work on if you were
retired. What would I work on?
If you were
keeping a fucking beat.
No.
I mean, no, okay. I think I.
What would it be?
I would work on. Good question. I would work on
what hand, what foot, 16th notes, 32nd notes. What would it like?
See, he's a drummer. He knows his stuff. Listen to this guy. I would work on. You know what? I would work on stuff that obviously I'm not good at, and that would be, first of all, I would work on my reggae.
Right.
Which I got.
Yeah. Right. Because it's just so counterintuitive.
I'm terrible.
Landing on the 3
Is
with both snare and a kick. It's just weird.
Right? Where's this? I can do, but I can't do it. I'm terrible. I would, and I would, and it really, and independence, and independence is the most important. Like you were saying, this foot can do that. And I'm not trying to play like Billy Cobham. I'm just like independently being able to, and be comfortable and make a groove. I can pretend, but
move it around
and be able to do that, and just playing, just being consistent. I mean, you guys have had a few drummers, but it's like, and you can tell when people are like, and for drumming, I think in rock band, just being consistent, for me, it's like consistency, play with dynamics, be a good listener first and foremost for any musician, but I want to be, powerful and dynamic, and I want the other guys to feel really confident when we're playing. And like they can go anywhere and do anything, and I'm gonna be there, but also like I'm gonna like spar with you a little bit, you know? It's not like anybody can keep too full. I don't need to hold their hands, you know what I mean? But to be able to be real musical, and I think that independence would help me be more musical, where it's not like, oh gee, I really want this to do this, and I'm thinking about it. As soon as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, gone. I wanna be like, to be able to kind of flow more. I need a teacher, because I can't play along with records anymore. I mean, I can, but I don't think that would be the thing to do. I think I might.
Do you ever
maybe this is a place to do it in New York.
Do you ever make loops?
Yeah.
Yeah, just play along to loops.
And play along to loops. Yeah, that's fun too.
Yeah. I mean, you can make loops in different time signatures or different. You can kind of just get used to like accenting something, or playing around. And this is something I've always thought about, and I think we even had a conversation about it a long time ago. But just the idea of writing songs where you take a static bass line and it's like the changes come from the drums. Like you just have a bass line that just, it continues. And a lot of dance music is like that in a sense, but you know, between either the drums swinging it differently in the B section, or a double time, or emphasizing a different part of whatever that bass line is, that you can write
those are the changes.
Yeah, and the vocals changing over the top of it. It's like, you know, and that's a classic disco thing. Is like really the key doesn't change in the whole thing, or maybe it changes
groove
once.
In the melody.
But yeah, it's like all of a sudden the singer lays it over the beat on the opposite side of where he was laying it over to start out with, and all of a sudden that feels great to release that and come back to it. But that might be a fun, kind of thing. Is just create a library of loops, and just being able to go in and just do every possible kind of swing it, double time, half time, quarter time, reggae, all over the same, bass line, and just see where that sort of takes you.
That's it. That's the next.
Have you ever played with a super reggae bass player before? I mean, where somebody who really could I
played with the guy from Steel Pulse, who was like probably just laughing at me.
Yeah.
But it was,
or loving it because he got to play in some weird with some groove that's so not
the normal thing, right? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he was very nice about it, and it was just a jam of me, him, Vernon Reed, and somebody else, and the bass player. Actually, the guy in my little group is here in New York. Got sick. And in between sets, in the second set, and he's like, and he was the keyboard player for Steel Pulse. He goes, I play a little bit the bass too, man, I'm like, oh, great, we're gonna be doing like blues changes, right?
Shredder.
He fucking killed it. I was like, oh my God. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah.
So that, but it wasn't like, I mean, because I'm just like, I'm embarrassed. Like, I don't want to like embarrass myself. I mean, I play the confines of my own little room somewhere, fine, but like go out in public and try to play, something that's...
Well, I doubt that I bet those guys were excited because it wasn't feeling the same. I mean, they probably are like sick of guys that only play on the 3, and they're like, okay, this is the same old thing, It's like... But I mean, you hear it in hip hop all the time, where it's like, there's tons of reggae influence in what's going on in hip hop, but then the backbeat is still fully there. So it's like,
that's true.
So much can be implied by just one instrument that having a 2 and a 4 is almost never a bad thing.
I just did this thing with Bill Laswell, and he recorded all these Moroccan it was a band, and they had something that keeps times this trance music, and it's like really heavy. It was fantastic, and they never had a drum set.
Yeah.
They had things that keep time,
Yeah.
but they never had a drum set.
Yeah.
He said, "You want to play drums on this?" I'm like, "Great!" And it's like a 10-minute kind of
Yeah.
trancey, really cool, heavy. I can't think of the
They were
name.
pre-recorded. You were just going to come in and play over the top of it.
I played on top of it a couple weeks ago, and I'm basically kind of playing this like the 2/4 kind of backbeat with little funk accents and accent their thing. And I was like, they're gonna think this is like, what is this?
Yeah.
And he said they loved it.
Yeah.
He said this is like, this is great.
Was it? Did they do it to a click, or was it?
No,
Yeah.
I just
So
kinda
there was just
played
they had a good pulse, and you just could play along.
It was we kind of moved around a little bit,
Yeah.
but and it was so fun, but it was so different, not what I'm used to, and it was really challenging. I mean, that to me is like a fun way to grow and change and do other stuff.
Yeah.
And I just want to do that. I mean, in any way that I can.
And
all this stuff that you do and I do and play with other people, and you guys in your band now play with other people, and then when you come back, it's like yeah.
A couple new tricks up my sleeve.
Check this out.
Yeah.
What's that?
Don't ever do that again.
What? The look.
That's not right.
It's not good. So wait, so for this lightning bolt, you're not doing any press, but wait, you got the World Series. Your music's gonna be featured on the World Series.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's great.
That's probably made that.
I love that.
That's got to be one of the biggest things that's happening in terms of
love
just
it.
like.
Well, there's just new avenues for your music, to,
Yeah.
radio and stuff.
Well, the
It's
fact
like,
that Major League Baseball would do that.
Oh, great.
It's like.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully, my Tigers will be in the World Series.
Man, crazy.
And you're doing like Good Morning America, is that right?
I think Mike McCready's doing Good Morning America.
Is Mike McCready gonna do good? Goodness, he's the only one who's gonna get up at 5:30.
He, first of all, that's exactly the
He
same
seems
thing
like
I
a
said.
Good Morning
Never
America
do Good Morning
kinda
America
guy.
because you got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the
You
morning.
do, it's dark.
He's doing something at 2 this afternoon. It's like, wait a minute, pre-taped. I was like, well, how does that work?
Oh, really?
They can do stuff later.
Oh, he's not first thing in the morning, really? Mm-hmm. Pre-taped, Mike. Cheating.
We're doing
him.
some traditional press. I mean, I've done some interviews for sure, but the idea going into it was that we were going to find people that we were interested in, that we knew either liked the music or were at least interested in it, and sort of do interview situations that were similar to this, where we would just sit down and casually have a conversation, and then
Not like pumping my latest thing and blah 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 blah.
well, and it's made us excited about it, so we were more likely to do it. And then it's nice to not have traditional. I mean, someone whose gig it is just to interview people. They can be great, and then there's certain times where they've been doing it for so long, it's just like they don't have nothing new for them. It's like they're bored with their gig or something like that. So
it's not a conversation. They got their question, and it's happened a million times. They got their thing, and they're not really interested in having a conversation. It just doesn't go anywhere.
So I highly recommend it. It's worked out so far for us. We spoke with Judd Apatow and Kerry Brownstein, a guy named Steve Gleason, who's a ex-New Orleans Saints football player who now has ALS and is in a pretty difficult situation right now with his health, but he's still super passionate about music and really lovely human being. And Mark Richards, the Australian world champion surfer from a few years back. So we just kind of across the board just found people that we really loved and that were into the music, and it worked out great. And I highly recommend it because one, it's more fun.
Yeah.
And two, it's kind of cool because Judd Apatow, the footage of us having a conversation with Judd Apatow, it's not only Pearl Jam fans that are kind of interested in it. Judd Apatow fans are like, so it's sort of like
Yeah.
it kind of creates its own little world, and it's more fun to do stuff on your own.
It beats the sitting in the hotel room
Yeah.
with a conveyor belt of, oh, it's our last record.
It wasn't so good. Why? Why was your last record so sucky compared to the
I
one
don't
from
like-
1980?
Why don't you do verses again? I really like Animal. We got, why don't you do Blood Sugar more like that? Did that one 25
It's the
years
same.
ago. Dude.
We all get the same experience.
You're probably the same guys. I talked to Pearl Jam last week. They don't make record either. Well, I'm flattered and honored that you would take your time.
Well, that was a
to talk
pleasure.
to me about it. Yeah.
I'm excited you're coming tonight.
I know. I can't wait. My wife's coming. My little boy's coming. Eddie,
Great.
Does Ed have his
He's got kids here.
Okay, good.
Mike's got kids here.
Awesome. You guys are
Matt's got kids here. Ray Cameron. He's
How
a
old?
grown man.
He's
like
a
he's
100.
14. Yeah. So playing guitar, playing jazz band.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
5:30. Matt Cameron has to get up at 5:15 to get Ray to jazz
That's a
class
commitment.
at 6.
Before school.
Can you imagine?
Ouch.
Is that a good time for jazz?
No. You don't see any
Unless
jazz-
you've been up all
Unless
night.
you've been up. Unless you've been up all night, that's the only way you're hitting at that time. Really?
I got to talk to him about that.
No, jazz band's supposed to be after school.
Yeah.
But he's probably got like soccer practice
Yeah.
or something. That's early. But you know, kids, they don't care what you've been doing the night before they're up, 6:30.
I don't
Get
know.
up.
At 14, I don't think Ray's excited about getting up.
No, you're right. At 14, he's probably... well, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Pleasure to see you,
Having
my friend.
fun?
Yeah. More
Good.
fun than ever.
Great.
Yeah.
You look great.
I mean, playing better, and it's just more relaxed.
That's the key.
I'm not so stressed out.
Yeah. If you just relax, things are fun.
Just keep relaxing.
All right, we'll see you later.